Have you ever felt an emotional pain so intense over something that, to others, seemed insignificant? Rejection-sensitive dysphoria, or RSD, isn't just a complicated name, it's an experience that leaves deep scars. Many with autism or ADHD live in an emotional minefield, where every interaction can detonate into anguish. The most surprising part? This feeling of rejection can arise even when there's no intent to hurt. Sounds wild, right? But it's a reality that affects millions. What no one tells you is that RSD isn't limited to minor discomforts, but shapes how people perceive the world and interact with it. You might think it's just drama or sensitivity, but the truth is much more complex. Imagine having to wrestle with your mind every single day, without a moment's peace. Now, what if there were a way to understand and maybe even transform this experience? Let's explore how, together. Globe with Meridian's Introduction to Rejection Sensitivity. Rejection-sensitive dysphoria, or RSD, is often experienced in the autistic and ADHD communities. It's as if every possible rejection, even when unintended, becomes magnified, causing intense emotional pain. For those already living with a racing mind, it feels like an invitation to chaos. Picture a simple no echoing as a painful reverberation, even when it wasn't a direct refusal. Here lies the importance of understanding what's happening internally so that the discomfort doesn't become an unbearable burden. The issue with RSD isn't just an overreaction, it's a visceral experience. The emotions flare up, affecting everything, from work to personal relationships. Imagine sending a message that gets read but not replied to. For many, it might seem neutral, but for someone dealing with RSD, it feels like abandonment. It's crucial to learn to differentiate between real rejections and those our mind constructs. Navigating this reality means understanding how RSD impacts mental well-being. It's not just about being thin-skinned, but rather an intense response that triggers genuine suffering. Learning to manage these feelings can make all the difference. Strategies like self-reflection or engaging in calming hobbies can be essential. But is there a more structured way to handle this pain? That's where the next concept comes into play. Counterclockwise arrows button framework to understand and manage. Dealing with rejection sensitivity requires a clear framework, encompassing 3 parts: understanding rejection issues, recognizing rejection sensitivity, and confronting dysphoria. First, it's vital to identify when rejection is real. Being excluded from an important meeting or ignored by friends at an event are situations that can deeply affect someone with RSD. Pinpointing these moments helps separate what's real from what's internally amplified. The second element is recognizing the sensitivity itself. It may sound simple, but accepting that the intensity of emotion doesn't always match reality is challenging. A common scenario might be someone not replying to a message immediately. Ever caught yourself assuming the worst? That's RSD at work. Acknowledging this sensitivity isn't weakness, but a powerful step toward healing. Awareness, as they say, is half the battle. Finally, addressing rejection dysphoria requires practical actions. Techniques like grounding, focusing on breathing, or mentally listing things you're grateful for can help. Support from friends who truly understand is also crucial. It's interesting to think that even with a plan, feelings can still take you by surprise. So, how can we reshape our emotional responses in a healthier way? That's something to explore next. Disappointed face personal story of vulnerability. Vulnerability, when shared, builds unexpected bridges. The story from the video Rejection is the Story of My Life serves as a powerful example. By exposing his struggles with rejection, the speaker revealed a pain that many experience, but rarely articulate. Imagine someone watching and feeling, for the first time, that their pain is validated and understood. It transforms something personal into a collective experience, where no one feels quite so alone. People find comfort in such stories because they recognize their own feelings of helplessness and fear. In the video, the author describes moments when seemingly insignificant rejections left him devastated. Situations like being ignored by friends or misinterpreted by colleagues can trigger almost unbearable distress. This shared identification shows that, no matter how isolating RSD can feel, it's not a battle fought in solitude. The truth is, this story resonated because it laid bare a collective wound, unfiltered. Interestingly, by opening up, the author also paved the way for solutions. But what about the relationships that often suffer due to this kind of sensitivity? How does RSD distort perceptions, leading to intense reactions that sometimes damage those connections? That's something worth delving into next. Handshake impact on relationships. Relationships are the foundation of our lives, but for those living with rejection-sensitive dysphoria, maintaining them can be a real struggle. RSD creates a distorted lens, where neutral gestures can feel like personal attacks. Imagine receiving constructive feedback at work and feeling as if you were publicly humiliated. This can lead to extreme behaviors, like constantly trying to please everyone or withdrawing completely to avoid pain. These intense reactions not only hurt the person experiencing them, but also those around them. Friends and family might feel overwhelmed, not understanding how seemingly innocent words or actions can cause such deep hurt. Ever had a friend who vanishes suddenly, as if hit by an emotional blow? That's RSD in action, and recognizing it is the first step toward healthier relationships. But how do we start to heal these bonds? One way is through honest and empathetic communication. Speaking openly about struggles can prevent misunderstandings, and sometimes, people are surprised to learn how small gestures can make a difference. Yet, the issue doesn't stop there. The intense emotions that RSD triggers also activate survival responses beyond rational thought. That's what we'll explore next. Brain emotional impact and evolution. The reactions to feelings of rejection aren't just emotional, they have deep roots in our evolutionary history. Think about it, our ancestors needed the group's acceptance to survive. Being alone could mean certain death. So, our brain developed automatic responses, like fight, flight, or freeze, to deal with social threats. In today's world, this translates into outbursts of anger, the desire to disappear, or total emotional shutdown. Imagine being in a situation where you think you've messed up, and an overwhelming need to fix things arises, even if no one is complaining. It's your primitive brain reacting as if your life depended on it. For those with RSD, these responses are even more intense and hard to control. The sense of danger feels very real, even if the risk is only a bit of criticism or a disapproving look. That's why seeking safety and connection is vital for those with rejection dysphoria. Practices like deep breathing or having a solid support network can help reprogram these automatic responses. However, the problem of distorted rejection perception still complicates things. So, what would it be like to see the world without constantly feeling rejected? That's up next. Glasses rejection tinted perception. Extreme sensitivity to rejection makes people see the world through a relentless filter. Small remarks, which others might brush off, become deep wounds for someone with RSD. For instance, a casual comment like "you could improve this" can feel like a personal attack. Perception becomes so skewed that even compliments can seem loaded with hidden criticism. It's like wearing glasses that turn everything into signs of disapproval. This perspective transforms any social situation into a source of constant anxiety. Even a delayed smile or not being immediately included in a conversation can feel catastrophic. These experiences shape behavior, sometimes leading to unhealthy coping mechanisms, like avoiding interactions or being perpetually defensive. Recognizing that this perception is distorted is a crucial step toward dismantling this rejection filter. But it doesn't happen overnight. It requires practice, patience, and strategies to recalibrate how one interprets the world. Of course, these intense feelings can lead to even more damaging reactions that reinforce the fear of rejection. Let's see how that unfolds next. Counterclockwise arrows button behavioral reactions. The pain from rejection dysphoria is overwhelming, driving behaviors that may even surprise the person experiencing them. Reactions like outbursts of anger or the urge to isolate oneself are common responses to an unbearable emotional ache. For instance, someone who feels attacked by a simple remark might, without meaning to, damage a valuable relationship with impulsive actions. Others prefer to withdraw, avoiding any potential pain. These behaviors often end up reinforcing the fears that triggered them. It's a tough cycle to break. The attempt to protect oneself from rejection can lead to more distance and misunderstandings. Think about a friend who constantly avoids social interactions, fearing misinterpretation, but ends up isolating so much that people actually do drift away. The fear of rejection becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Understanding these reactions and finding ways to manage them is key. It might involve learning to pause before responding or finding alternative outlets to express emotions. The process isn't linear, and each moment is a chance to adjust behavior. So, what could be the path to breaking this cycle? The next section provides a more detailed framework. Bar chart framework breakdown. Effectively dealing with rejection dysphoria requires understanding the three key components: rejection issues, sensitivity to rejection, and dysphoria. Rejection issues refer to situations where exclusion is undeniable, like being left out of a crucial work meeting. Recognizing these moments helps address the pain in an objective way, acknowledging that it has a concrete basis. Rejection sensitivity, however, is the disproportionate emotional reaction stemming from past experiences. Even a small disagreement can feel devastating for someone with RSD. Picture a boss saying "good job" without much enthusiasm. The impact can be enormous. Addressing this sensitivity involves strategies like self-awareness and reflection to lessen the emotional intensity. Dysphoria, finally, is the overwhelming sense of rejection without clear evidence. It's the feeling that hits hard, even when there's no logical reason to panic. Breaking down each element separately helps craft strategies to tackle them individually. But how can all this be applied practically, without getting lost in the process? Managing these feelings effectively is the next step. Shield managing responses. Managing intense reactions from rejection dysphoria takes practice and clear strategies. The first step is to calm down and ground yourself in reality. When your heart races and fear overwhelms you, taking deep breaths for a few minutes can make a world of difference. Mindfulness techniques, like focusing on the sensation of air entering and leaving your body, help bring clarity to the moment. It's like giving your brain a chance to reorganize emotions before acting impulsively. Seeking support is another valuable tool. Talking to friends who understand, without judgment, can provide the perspective needed to avoid making mountains out of molehills. A simple message to a trusted person, like "I'm feeling this way, is it real?" might be what it takes to regain rationality. Having that safety net transforms emotional chaos into a chance for growth. Reflecting on experiences and recognizing patterns is also essential. Often, the triggers for RSD are recurrent. Knowing that specific words or interactions tend to set you off allows you to prepare and respond more calmly. Of course, it's not always easy to put this into practice immediately, but with time, reactions can change. Even in the midst of emotional storms, progress is possible. And with all this in mind, let's bring it all together. Now that you've gained a deep understanding of what it's like to live with rejection-sensitive dysphoria, it's time to put this knowledge into action. How can you begin to transform these intense reactions so they don't dominate your life? Why not make a list of the situations that affect you most and think of specific strategies for each one? What have you learned that could make a difference? Sometimes, small changes, like practicing mindful breathing or having that honest talk with a friend, are more powerful than they seem. So, here's a challenge for you. What will be different in your life starting today? What steps will you take to avoid being defined by these overwhelming emotions? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, do it now and turn on notifications to keep learning about topics like this. Every detail counts in your growth journey, and we're here to help. Share your experience, strategy, or even your questions. Let's build this conversation together.